Yo, hold up. Let me turn this bike light off real quick. Now we're talking. And we're talking about chip week, baby. If you're here with me, you made it into your fantasy football championships. You are still here. You are fucking winner, but you didn't win yet. You didn't win shit yet. Making it to the chip means nothing. We need to bring home the hardware, y'all. I want to see them big dog championships. If you win your championship, I want screenshots. I want tweets. I want DMs. I want emails. I want Snapchats. Calm down, Snacks. You can't be fucking blowing me up when I'm in the middle of filming right now. So today we're talking waiver wires. Week 16, top waiver wire pickups for the chip week. There's really one guy you want, one guy to rule all of the guys. I want to recap my leagues real quick, though. So we had 4 semifinal matchups. If you're not following me on Twitter, I usually recap some of these things on the Twitter. I will get into defenses, y'all. I'll go position by position. If you want the in-depth write-up, if you don't want to fucking listen to me talk for a half hour, y'all can head over to patreon.com/BDGE because this is Big Dogs Gotta Eat, BDGE Fantasy Football. All right. Y'all can follow me at Nick_BDGE. Why is that light is unnecessarily bright, right? Should I turn that off too? Yeah, I guess so. Is this better? Is this better? Are you not entertained? All right, whatever. We're going to roll this motherfucker. All right, so made 16 out of 24 championship games. How the fuck are you in 24 leagues? I'm in 5 leagues. I made the championship in 4 of them, which is a very fucking hard feat. So I'll say I'm proud. I'm proud of myself this year. E-Town Get Down, we in the chip. Go Fade Me Dynasty League, we in the chip. NYC League, we in the chip. Fucking the other Big Dogs Dynasty League, we in the chip. The problem with being in all these chips is that you're playing against everybody. Like everyone you have on your team, you're also playing against in another championship. So it's almost impossible to win all of them. I can't believe I walked away winning 4 out of 4 semifinals games because everything has to just break right. And we ain't going to, that shit doesn't happen 2 weeks in a row, unfortunately. But the way I do it when I'm in all these leagues is really the only thing I care about. Not the only thing I care about is the E-Town Get Down League. No, I was not wrong about Kenyan Drake. Not this week because I rated him very, very fucking high. I ranked him higher than almost anyone else in the industry this week. So, fuck you. Number 2, the problem with all these championships is I have Christian McCaffrey in one of them, and then I'm playing against him in the other 2. I don't think I'm actually playing against. I'll play against Lamar in one of my leagues. I played against him in the semifinals in multiple leagues. Somehow came away unscathed. All right, so it was a good week for the brand. I hope it was a good week for y'all. Let's talk waiver wire pickups. Now, quarterbacks, there's not a lot of great streaming options on the wire. My favorite one, I know I hate to be the one to give you advice to fucking play Phillip Rivers, but he is 59% owned. Everyone we talk about in these videos is 60% owned or fewer in Yahoo leagues. He's an absolute turnover fucking unit. It's respectable, right? He does everything balls to the wall. No matter what he does it to the highest level, whether it's producing turnovers, whether it's producing children, he does it to his maximum. And he's really good at both of them. But he is equally as good as turning the ball over as the Oakland Raiders are at not defending the pass. So he plays the Oakland Raiders. Their secondary is terrible. You don't really need more logic behind it. He, as always, has a very good weapons group. My top streamer this week, though, is Ryan Fitzpatrick. We're going to call him Ryan Fitzpatrick. If I just said that smoothly, it would have sounded a lot better. Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's so fucking hard to say. Fitzpatrick. 25% owned. He's about to bring you home the chip. He is literally unbelievable. I don't understand like what teams were thinking in the offseason not signing this guy, because I could think of like 6 teams, like the Steelers could have used him at quarterback. The Lions could have used him at quarterback. The Broncos, even the Colts for when Jacoby Brissett was out, maybe they get 1 or 2 more wins and they're still in the playoff hunt. I don't know what they're doing. But listen, he's got the Dolphins looking about as competent of a football team as you possibly can right now. He throws for another 280, 2 more touchdowns on Sunday, adds 33 yards on the ground, which is a staple of his game. He literally leads the Miami Dolphins in rushing yards, which is fucking insane. It's like Ryan Fitzpatrick, Lamar Jackson, 2 quarterbacks that lead their team in rushing yards. He has 20 or more fantasy points in 3 of the last 4 games. Has also added 33 rushing yards or more in 3 out of the last 4 games. They get Cincinnati at home, who admittedly has been a little bit better against fantasy quarterbacks as of late, but that's only because they got absolutely crushed by fantasy running backs. So fire Fitz up, borderline top 12 options. Other guys that you could read more in depth about on Patreon is Mitch Trubisky, Gardner Minshew, blah, 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 blah. We could talk about wide receivers now. There are 2 duos of wide receivers that I think are worth mentioning, 2 teammate duos, right? Obviously, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers situation, we didn't exactly know what was going to happen. We have Jameis Winston banged up. We have Mike Evans banged up. Mike Evans misses the game. Chris Godwin and Scotty Miller both end up leaving the game with hamstring injuries. They are both most likely out for the remainder of the season. And you hate to see it. You hate to see it unless you're a Shad Perriman owner. Then you love to see it. Somehow, Stevie One Chain started Shad Perriman against Animal in the E-Town Get Down semifinals. He's only 11 or 9% owned right now, or 11% owned right now, which means he was probably like 2% started. But Stevie One Chains, I don't know. I guess he's fucking Rain Man. He's Rain Man. Starts Shad Perriman in his lineup, gets him like 34 points, catches 5 of 6 targets, 113 yards, 3 tugs. He single-handedly put you into the championship game if you started him. So we have these other 2 guys leaving the game. Perriman plays on 67 of 71 snaps on Sunday, which is over 94% of them. 78% of them are coming outside. So he is completely playing an outside role, whereas Godwin and Scotty Miller were playing more in the slot. And the other wide receiver to mention of note, of course, is Justin Watson. But in Week 16, they play against Houston at home, which is a soft secondary. And obviously, we're in a smash spot. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Perriman disappointed in Week 16, to be honest with you, because he's done it so many times in his career. And those 6 targets he got, I know he ended up with a monster fantasy day, but the 6 targets on Sunday were 4th on the team behind both tight ends, Howard, Brait, Godwin. It's a 14% target share. So you can't typically rely on a 14% target share to produce big fantasy numbers. Obviously, with these other injuries, it seems like he's got a higher floor for the targets. But I will say, don't look at Shad Perriman as like a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2. He is still very much a flex play. I also think Justin Watson is a good pickup, who is 6% owned because of all the injuries. It's going to be a target funnel between the tight ends, Watson, Shad Perriman. They have no one else there. Watson played on 59% of the snaps. He played 55% of his snaps in the slot. So it seems like he is becoming the slot guy. And if you've never looked at Justin Watson, you're not sure who he is. He's this athletic freak out of the University of Penn. So Ivy Leaguer. He's got size. He's got speed. 6'2", 215, 4'4", 940, which puts him in the 87th percentile for speed score, 88th percentile for burst score. He put up monster numbers in college, again, at Ivy League schools. So it's not that impressive, but you like to see a guy produce on the football field to know that he is good at football. So Watson could be like, it wouldn't surprise me if Watson ended up having a bigger day than Perriman did in Week 16. I think he's like a desperate wide receiver 3, maybe like a flex play, but I still think he's worth a pickup if you are desperate going into championship week, which you shouldn't be, because you should have a fucking chip team, unless you're one of those fraud ass teams that scores like the second fewest points in the league and somehow, fucking finesses your way into the championship game. Shout out to y'all for all the hustlers out there that somehow make it into there. I guess, whatever. So what makes me confident in either of these guys It's just Jameis. Jameis has been prolific as a passer this year. Since week 2, he started off a little bit slow, but since week 2, after the first 2 games, he has thrown at least 41 pass attempts or thrown multiple touchdown passes in 11 of the 12 games since week 2. And it's probably going to happen again in week 16 against Houston. We have Winston. We have Watson. Should be a high-scoring affair. So there are stats to be had there. If I had to go in order of guys that I would pick up on the wire, it's Perriman, then it's O.J. Howard, then it's Watson, then it's Cameron Brate. We have another teammate duo, though, that I think should be on your radar. That is the Pittsburgh Steelers duo of James Washington and Deante Johnson. I don't expect to see Juju Smith-Schuster back on the field at any point this year. James Washington is owned in 32% of leagues. Deante Johnson, 15%. Seems like James Washington has a real connection with Ducky when he's under center. Sunday was a real tough matchup against the Bills secondary, but he saw 11 targets, James Washington did, which was a 29% target share. He caught 5 of them for 83 yards. And that would be the 4th time in the last 6 games that he's hit at least 83 yards. And that was, that's a nice floor to have for James Washington. He's a big play guy. He's a guy who can get up and get the ball in the end zone. And they play against the Jets in week 16. And Lamar Jackson legitimately made the Jets look like a prepubescent fucking elementary school defense last week. They were without like 4 of their top defenders. They're already a bad pass defense. So last week was miserable. Even the Pittsburgh Steelers passing offense should be able to move the ball against this Jets defense. I also think that Deante Johnson is a sneaky good play this week. The same way I said I wouldn't be surprised if Watson outperformed Perriman. Wouldn't be surprised if Deante Johnson outperformed James Washington in week 16. He scores 2 all-purpose touchdowns last week. Comes into this week, catches 5 of 7 targets for 62 yards. He did lose a fumble, which kind of cost him a decent fantasy day. But I think Johnson is just as good, if not better, of an actual all-around technician and a receiver than James Washington is. It's not like James Washington is the alpha. Deante Johnson has out-targeted Washington in 2 out of the last 4 games. So they're kind of switching who's the wide receiver 1, who's the wide receiver 2 there. And it's just a plus matchup for all parties involved. I don't think Juju is going to be out there. Vance McDonald is hurt. So they don't have a lot of options in the passing game. I think it will continue to be a funnel between these 2. Anthony Miller obviously needs to be named as well. Only 26% owned. He is finally blossoming into the young prince that I thought he would coming out of college. He was like if you followed me for like 2 years now, or whenever Anthony Miller came out of school, you knew how high I was on this kid. I was all in on Anthony Miller. I loved him coming out of college. And now he's finally doing the shit that he did in college. He went off on Sunday. 15 targets, 9 catches, 118 yards, and a tutty, which caps off a full month straight of double-digit fantasy point games. He's had double-digit targets in 3 of the last 5 games. And this Chicago offense is starting to become an absolute target funnel to just Anthony Miller and just Allen Robinson. It's like when Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey were there together. It's only going to those 2 guys. Over the last month of the season, I have some numbers here for y'all. Over the team's last 5 games, Allen Robinson owns a 34% and a 24% air yard and target market share, respectively. Anthony Miller, 30% of the air yards, 25% of the targets. So even higher target share than Allen Robinson is. They get a date with the Chiefs secondary next week on the road. So the Chiefs secondary is one that I typically tell y'all to stay away from when it comes to wide receivers, but that's really only on the outside, and they're not at Arrowhead, and they are much better at home than they are when they're on the road. Here's the other thing. Miller's been running 80% of his routes from the slot this year. KC currently allows the 2nd fewest PPR fantasy points to outside wide receivers, but the 8th most PPR fantasy points to slot wide receivers. So this is a matchup where Allen Robinson could struggle, maybe not struggle, but maybe doesn't have the upside. Maybe he has like a Cortland Sutton-esque game like he did last week, where he'll make a couple big plays down the field, but don't expect, the 5 for 100 and a touchdown or anything like that. Though Sutton was probably a drop ball away or 2 from a game like that. And he's been really good this year. So Allen Robinson could play fine. But Anthony Miller is probably where they will attack and where they will game plan. We've just seen him to be so fucking involved that I think Miller's like legit on the wide receiver 2-3 borderline. It's just been too long, too consistent of really good games going back to bite. Move over to the running backs. And this week's number one waiver wire pickup of the week is none other than my main man, Kobe Bryant. Mike motherfucking Boone. Man, if you weren't stashing him in Dynasty, I feel blessed. I got him in the Go Fade Me Dynasty League, and I'm hoping that he's that guy because he is that guy. He's that dude. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Mike Boone, but he was a preseason absolute stud. And in the preseason, I remember I tweeted out, I was like, when are they going to start using Mike Boone over Alexander Madison in real games? Mike Boone is this absolutely explosive athlete. Like every time he touched the ball in the preseason, it went for a 40 or 50-yard fucking touchdown run or play, whatever. So here's what we know. Devin Cooke re-injures his shoulder. The shoulder that he hurt a couple weeks ago, he was in a lot of pain. And I just assumed right as soon as that happened, we weren't going to see him again this season. Adam Schefter comes out yesterday and said that he'd be surprised if we saw Devin Cooke again. The question then becomes, what happens with Alexander Madison? So we're going to have to keep very close eye on the practice reports this week for Madison, who missed last week's game with an ankle. The thing that encourages me from a Mike Boone owner standpoint is Alexander Madison did not practice at all. He did not even get a limited practice in at all last week, which tells me that he is 50-50 at best for week 16 for championship week. You know, if someone told me that there's going to be a league winner in the Vikings backfield and it wasn't Dalvin Cook, how many of y'all would have said Alexander Madison? 100% of y'all fucking fish would have said Alexander Madison. Not y'all in my audience, though. We're on the Mike Boone train from here on out. Mike Boone is going to win championship leagues if Alexander Madison sits. I mean, this dude was literally CJ2K in the preseason. Now, athletics-wise, 4.49 speed. 4.49 speed, so he's got that sub 4.5. He's got the breakaway home run play speed. 100th percentile burst. 100. On Sunday, Cook left. Madison wasn't there. Boone split the backfield work with Amir Abdullah. Out-touched him, out-gained him, out-produced him, out-snapped him. 13 carries, 56 yards, 2 touchdowns. He wasn't targeted, but Amir Abdullah only saw 5 rushes, 25 yards, didn't catch either of his 2 targets. Mike Boone was a guy in college that could catch balls, though. 61st percentile college target share, and you're obviously already seeing him on the goal line, which has been a very, very sweet position for fantasy this year because they are on the goal line a lot, and they hand it off to Dalvin Cook a lot, which in turn would become Mike Boone's carries. They play against Green Bay in Week 16. Dalvin carved up Green Bay back in, I think it was Week 2, 191 total yards and a touchdown. Packers currently allow the 5th most fantasy points to running backs on the year. They have PFF's 28th graded run defense. So the predicament comes, what happens if Madison plays? If Madison plays, I think both are worthy of flex plays. Obviously, ruins kind of both of their upside. I think both of them could probably be in your lineup. I would actually personally take Mike Boone because I think we'll see Madison operating at less than 100%. And when you're splitting carries between 2 guys, both guys are going to get 12 touches or whatever. One's a little bit banged up. And we've already seen Mike Boone offer that home run play ability. That's the guy I want. The guy that could take any given carry or touch 50 or 60 yards to the crib. But I will say that if both are active, Madison and Boone, none of them are, at very best, they're going to be low-end RB2 in my rankings, probably more flex plays. But if Mike Boone is the only active one, if it's him and Amir Abdullah and fucking CJ Ham, then Mike Boone is going to be a borderline RB1 this week. I probably will have him around, somewhere in the 10 to 14 range. So that is a fucking fantastic pickup if you can go get him. Yes, blow the rest of your fab on him. Absolutely no fucking questions asked. There are a couple other running backs on the wire. Nothing really to get excited about. If we're going to talk about Wes Hills, don't, because Carry-On's going to be back next week. And if we're going to talk about Carry-On, also don't, because he's going to be in a limited workload. You don't want the Lions running back right now. Let's talk about tight ends. I already talked about O.J. Howard, how he would be my preferred pickup over Justin Watson in the Bucs offense. He's starting to come on a little bit. And again, there's just too many injuries for him not to have a good game against Houston, who have allowed the 10th most fantasy points to the tight end position this year. And they've allowed 100 total yards in consecutive games to the opposing tight ends. A couple other guys that literally all just fit into the exact same category. Young, athletic, upside, but very low floors. Noah Fant, Jonnu Smith, Ian Thomas, Mike Gesicki. None of them really have plus matchups against, except for Noah Fant, but Noah Fant is probably the most banged up. He came into the game with a foot injury. He left at one point with a shoulder injury. I don't know. He would probably be my preferred play over Joe New, Ian Thomas, and Mike Gesicki, even though I do like Mike Gesicki a lot this week too, coming off an 8-target performance. Gets to play against the Bengals. They're all the same. You're just fucking throwing a dart and hoping that one of them breaks a big play or one of them scores a touchdown. So not too excited about any of those guys. I would much prefer OJ Howard to all of them. Let's talk about defense. Let's talk about defense. Let's talk about the fucking Chargers. Now, so we have 4 teams listed as streaming options this week. As always, if you followed me, my formula is at home, your favorites to win your games, and a relatively low over-under. If you take it as a high over-under, then just make sure you are heavy favorites to win the game. We have the Chargers at home, 5.5-point favorites against Oakland. This is one I would probably stay away from just because I don't know. I don't know how much I really believe that I feel like, one, their offense hurts them, their defense, and 2, I just don't know if the Chargers defense is really that good. I tend to stay away from real-life bad defenses, even though they're not that bad. They've been getting a little healthier and getting a little better. So Chargers 5.5 at home against the Raiders, over under 47. Indianapolis Colts, 6.5-point favorites at Indy against Carolina. We don't have the over-under yet because we were waiting for after Monday Night Football. They also, I believe, they announced that they were going to be starting Will Grier. So maybe there's been a line change. I'll check that live for y'all right now. That makes me even more confident. If they're going to be playing Will Grier over Kyle Allen, then Indy becomes an even more interesting play. Where are you? So, yeah, still 6.5, over under 46.5. So I like Indy as a streaming option for sure as well, although they just got fucking absolutely by the Saints last night. But that's what Breeze does to y'all on primetime. So I'm not too worried about it. My favorite streaming option of the week, though, is the Denver Broncos. Only owned in 23% of leagues. I stashed them going into chip week, so they will be my starter in the E-Town Get Down. Thank God. They play against Detroit and David Blow. They are about 7-point favorites. Let me see if that line moved at all. Yeah, they were 7-point favorites going in. Their over-under is 37.5. They are playing in Denver. That is just a tough fucking environment to play in. So touchdown favorites at home against a third-string quarterback with an extremely low over-under. I really like the Denver Broncos defense this week. I also like the Atlanta Falcons defense a lot this week. They play at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars. 7.5-point favorites. That's pretty big. 45.5-point over-under. The Falcons defense has been, I know they've been a little bit schizophrenic, but they've played really fucking hard for Dan Quinn over these last few games, over the last month of the season. Just beat the 49ers. If Jacksonville is without DJ Chark, they become pretty one-dimensional again, like we've seen the last couple of weeks with Minshew as the starter. So I don't hate the Falcons. So decent options this week for streaming defenses. Nothing that really blows you away, but I think Denver is probably my favorite one there. And you could feel decently confident about any of the other ones. So that's going to wrap up the waiver wire show for this week. Make sure y'all hit them thumbs up buttons. Not here for the content, just say hi. Yeah, George. I pulled a New Orleans Saints via Indy Colts on George this weekend. Just run and train on motherfuckers. Let's give Nick a like. Terry knows. Yeah, if y'all are in there, you got some information, got some value, got whatever the fuck you got your fix, please hit that thumbs up button. Please hit it. This is just a little tequila, a little silver tequila to get my day started. All right. Well, I got a lot of shit to do today. I got to drive back to Jersey. I got to film with Noah. I got to film Fade the Public. I got to edit up the fucking last vlog I'm about to put out. Oh, today's going to be a shitty day. I love y'all. Good luck on the wire. I hope y'all get Mike Boone. Get Mike Boone at all costs. Get Mike Boone at all costs. Do anything to secure the Boone. All right. We're out. I love y'all. Have a great week 16. Have a great Don't be disgusting. I'm allowed to be disgusting. It's my fucking house. It's my channel. I don't know why I stay in here at the end. It's all just fucking nonsense comments from you guys. Wait for what, you China? All right, goodbye. I love you. Patreon.com/BDGE. Mwah.